What if a solitary light flickers at the very edge of the known sky? Imagine a faint glimmer, drifting silently across the darkness, a traveler that carries with it a memory older than our planet itself. It is not a star, not a planet, but something stranger, something that whispers secrets from the edge of time. Hey guys, tonight we are going to let our minds drift into the story of 3, I divided by Atlas, a mysterious interstellar visitor. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And while you're settling in, share your location and local time. In the comments, I'd love to know where in the world you are listening from, right now, under your own night sky. Now, if you're ready, let's begin. At the farthest rim of what our telescopes can reach, 3 I divided by Atlas first revealed itself not with thunder or brilliance, but with a whisper. Its light was delicate, almost hesitant, a faint trace on an astronomer's image, one tiny dot against a sea of stars. Yet within that fragile glow lay a story that spans billions of years. Comets and asteroids are not strangers to us. They sweep through the solar system regularly, leaving glowing tails or dark rocks that vanish into the void. But 3 I divided by Atlas is not ordinary. Its very name gives away its secret. The designation 3I marks it as the 3rd known interstellar object ever detected, passing through our neighborhood of space. Before it, we had Oumuamua in 2017 and Borisov in 2019. Each of them carried the same aura of mystery because they did not belong to us. They came from somewhere else, perhaps light years away, perhaps from a star long dead. Think of it this way. When you pick up a seashell on a beach, it has traveled through waves and tides, gathering echoes of distant waters. In the same way, 3 I divided by Atlas is like a seashell cast up on the shore of our solar system. It carries within its icy body the memory of another ocean, an ocean of stars. Why does this matter? Because 3 I divided by Atlas whispers of something larger, the bridge between our sun and the unfathomable distances beyond. Interstellar space is not empty silence. It is a vast desert where grains of dust drift like forgotten travelers. For an object to cross that desert and arrive here, it must have been thrown with enormous force, perhaps by the birth pangs of a star or the gravitational chaos of a shattered system. When astronomers first noticed its faint streak, they paused. Was this just another comet from our outer Oort cloud, the icy region surrounding the solar system? But no, the calculations quickly proved otherwise. Its path was hyperbolic, meaning it was not bound to the Sunday. It was not circling. It was simply passing through, just as Oumuamua had done. Imagine standing at the window of your home on a quiet night, and a stranger walks by. They do not stop. They do not turn. They simply pass, leaving you with the lingering question. Who were they? Where were they going? That is what 3 I divided by Atlas represents, a stranger crossing our cosmic street. But perhaps the most poetic detail lies not in its trajectory, but in its composition. Unlike Oumuamua, which baffled us with its odd cigar-like shape and lack of a tail, 3 I divided by Atlas behaved more like a comet. It carried ice. It shimmered faintly when sunlight touched its surface. This ice, however, is not ordinary. It is primordial, frozen, long before Earth's oceans existed. Each molecule is like a preserved memory, a fragment from the time when the universe was young and stars were still forming in their cradles. When you watch snow fall outside your window, each flake is temporary, fragile, and unique. Now imagine a flake of snow that has survived not minutes, not hours, but millions of years. That is the snow of 3 I divided by Atlas. The hydrogen, the carbon, the oxygen locked in its body might have witnessed galaxies colliding, stars exploding, planets forming. And now, for a brief moment, it lets us glimpse that ancient archive. This is why astronomers leaned closer, hearts quickened not by fear, but by wonder. For if comets like 3I divided by Atlas wander between stars, could they also carry the seeds of life from one world to another? Could the oceans on Earth have once been gifted droplets from such cosmic messengers? There is a paradox here. Though 3I divided by Atlas carries secrets as vast as the cosmos, it revealed itself so gently that you might miss it if you blinked. In the images captured, it is no brighter than a candle seen from miles away. And yet, within that flicker, our imaginations run wild. Science begins with observation, but it thrives on questions. And so the questions multiplied. How old is it? From what star system was it born? Is it intact or breaking apart, even as we speak? Each of these uncertainties draws us deeper into its story, just as a whisper in the dark pulls you closer to listen. Sometimes, what lulls us into sleep is not the certainty of an answer, but the rhythm of the unknown. Think of waves lapping against a shore you do not count each one. You simply let the sound carry you. In the same way, the questions around 3I, divided by Atlas, can carry you gently into dream. As we close our first glance at this traveler, we find ourselves at the edge of knowing, gazing into the twilight where facts end and mystery begins. 3I divided by Atlas is more than a dot of light. It is a reminder that the universe is alive with wanderers, each one carrying a story across time. And so, as we move into the next part of our journey, we will step closer. We will follow this traveler between worlds and listen for the stories it carries in its shimmering silence. The story of 3I divided by Atlas does not end with its first glimmer. That faint light was only the opening note in a much longer song, a song about journeys so vast that human language struggles to contain them. To call it a traveler between worlds is not poetic exaggeration, but simple fact. This object has crossed distances that make our entire solar system look like a tiny island floating in an endless sea. Imagine for a moment that you are holding a pebble in your hand. If you throw it across a small pond, the arc is brief, the splash near. But what if the pebble had to cross an ocean? The pebble would vanish into the horizon, carried by waves, unseen for years, even centuries, before it might ever land on another shore. This is the story of 3I divided by Atlas. At some distant moment in cosmic history, perhaps 1 billion years ago, gravity cast it away from its home system. Maybe a giant planet swung it outward, or perhaps a nearby star disrupted its orbit. Whatever the cause, it was flung into the wilderness between suns. Since then, it has been drifting, alone, across interstellar space. Interstellar space is not empty. It is laced with thin streams of hydrogen gas, sprinkled with dust, haunted by magnetic fields. For an object like Atlas, this space is both vast and silent. It does not feel wind nor hear sound. Its only companions are distant stars, growing brighter or dimmer as centuries pass. And yet, through this silence, it has continued on, slowly, faithfully, until now, when our instruments finally noticed its presence. To understand the immensity of this voyage, let us anchor ourselves in familiar numbers. The solar system, from the Sun to the outer edge of the Oort cloud, stretches about 100,000 astronomical units. That sounds enormous, yet even this vast shell is only a tiny bubble compared to the space between stars. If 3I, divided by Atlas, came from a nearby star system, say 110 light-years away, then it has traveled roughly 60 trillion miles. Try to imagine walking 1 mile every day of your life. You would never reach such a distance, not in thousands of lifetimes. For 3I divided by Atlas, this crossing has been its only purpose, a long migration through a dark ocean, without beginning or end as we measure time. Astronomers sometimes call such objects interstellar interlopers. The word interloper suggests intrusion, something that does not belong. But perhaps we should call them guests unexpected, uninvited, but still welcomed. For in their passing, they remind us of the larger stage on which our solar system rests. In your own life, you measure time by days, by years, perhaps by decades. For 3I, divided by Atlas, time is measured in millennia, in epochs, in the rise and fall of civilizations on Earth that it could never see. When it began its journey, humans did not exist. When it crossed into interstellar darkness, our ancestors were not yet dust. Now, as it passes near us, we are here to observe and to wonder. There is something soothing in that thought, that the universe carries on, vast and patient, even when our lives feel small and hurried. Each of us has only a few decades to glimpse the night sky, but 3I divided by Atlas has traveled through millions of nights, each one more silent than the last, until at last it brushed against our awareness. Borders are human inventions. We draw lines on maps, fences on land, and walls in cities. But 3I divided by Atlas recognizes no such boundaries. It belongs not to one country, nor even to one star. It is an ambassador of the in-between, a reminder that the cosmos is seamless. Stars bleed into galaxies, galaxies into clusters, clusters into the great web of the universe. To call Atlas a traveler between worlds is also to call it a messenger between realities. It tells us that our solar system is not closed. We are not an island. Other fragments, other wanderers may pass by at any time, carrying histories older than Earth and futures we cannot yet imagine. If you pause now, close your eyes, and think of your own life, you might realize how small your daily struggles appear beside this endless voyage. Bills to pay, roads to cross, tasks unfinished, they matter in their moment. But compared to a journey across light years, they are fleeting sparks. And yet, there is comfort in that too, because if Atlas can survive such distances, drifting for eons and still glowing when touched by our sun, then perhaps you, too, can endure your own long nights. Perhaps you, too, can carry hidden light until the right moment reveals it. And so, we lean closer. From a faint whisper at the edge, Atlas now emerges as a traveler, a being of ice and rock that has crossed the abyss between stars. Its path is not random. It is written in the gravity of ancient systems and the slow mathematics of orbits. But its meaning, the significance we feel when we watch it, that is ours to decide. In the next part of our journey, we will explore how humanity first glimpsed this visitor and how the first human eyes to see it must have felt, a mix of awe, curiosity, and the quiet thrill of recognizing that we are not alone in the vast corridors of space. When the faint traveler known as 3I divided by Atlas first revealed itself to human eyes, it was not through drama or spectacle. There was no sudden streak across the sky that lit the world in awe. Instead, it appeared as a barely noticeable trace, a small blur against a field of stars, captured by telescopes patient enough to search the darkness. Yet within that faint appearance was a story that would ripple through astronomy and through the quiet minds of those who study the heavens. Astronomers spend countless hours scanning images of the night sky. Each image is filled with stars, galaxies, faint clouds of dust. To find a moving object among them is like noticing a grain of sand rolling across a desert. And yet, in late 2024, a team of researchers noticed something unusual. On the digital plates, one point of light shifted slightly between exposures. It was not behaving like a known planet, nor like a regular comet from our own Oort cloud. It moved at an angle, its speed and direction suggesting an origin beyond the grasp of our Sunday. The data confirmed it quickly. The orbit was hyperbolic. This was not a visitor from within. It was passing through. In those first human glimpses, 3I divided by Atlas was only a number on a screen, a faint object catalogued and compared. Yet even in those sterile numbers, wonder stirred. Humanity had seen this before with Oumuamua and later with Borisov. But to encounter a third interstellar traveler so soon, in just a handful of years, was extraordinary. Science is often described as cold, rational, devoid of feeling. But ask the astronomer who first noticed Atlas, and you will hear something different. Imagine the quiet of a laboratory at night, only the hum of computers and the soft glow of screens. You are scanning for anomalies, expecting nothing, when suddenly a light moves where no light should be. In that moment, your breath catches. You know you are seeing something ancient, something that does not belong to this system, a wanderer whose journey began before human civilization. The feeling is not fear. It is awe, a humbling recognition of how small we are and how vast the universe remains. For those astronomers, 3I divided by Atlas was not simply data. It was a conversation with the cosmos, a whisper from beyond, telling them, you are not alone in your curiosity. When news of 3I divided by Atlas reached the broader world, the headlines followed a familiar rhythm. Words like mystery, alien visitor, and stranger from beyond filled articles. People who rarely thought about comets found themselves pausing, wondering what it means when something from another star system drifts through ours. For some, it sparked fear. Could it be dangerous? Could it strike Earth? For others, it sparked fascination. What secrets might it carry? Could it hold the building blocks of life? And for many, it was simply a reminder that the sky above is alive, filled with wanderers we have yet to meet. Social media filled with images of star maps, speculative sketches, and poetic musings. Even those who never looked through a telescope felt touched by the thought of a visitor so far from home. Part of the excitement came from memory. Only a few years earlier, the world had been captivated by Oumuamua, the elongated, tumbling object that looked unlike anything we had ever seen. Some speculated it was artificial, perhaps even a probe. Others insisted it was simply a fragment of rock. Then came Borisov, a more ordinary-looking comet, but still undeniably interstellar. So when 3I divided by Atlas appeared, astronomers and dreamers alike felt as if a trilogy was unfolding. 3 wanderers, 3 clues, 3 whispers from beyond. Was this the beginning of a pattern? Were interstellar visitors more common than we once thought? And if so, what might that mean about the connectedness of star systems? Each of these questions added layers of fascination to the first glimpses of Atlas. It was not just about what it looked like, but what it implied. That the boundaries between stars are more porous, more alive than we once believed. But perhaps the most important part of those first glimpses was not what they revealed about Atlas, but what they revealed about us. In every culture, when a new comet or celestial body appeared, people projected meaning onto it. To some, it was an omen of change. To others, a messenger of the gods. In modern times, we may not speak of omens, but the impulse is the same. We look at Atlas and ask, what does this mean for us? Maybe the meaning is simple. Maybe it is only a rock and ice, a traveler without intent. But in seeing it, we are reminded of our own longing to journey, to know, to stretch beyond our borders. Just as Atlas drifts between worlds, so too do we dream of crossing to other stars. The comet becomes a mirror, reflecting not only the light of the sun, but the restless curiosity of humanity. The first glimpses were just the beginning. Astronomers prepared instruments to study its spectrum, to analyze the light reflected from its surface. They hoped to glimpse its composition, to taste, in a sense, the chemistry of another star system. Each piece of data would be a breadcrumb, leading us closer to understanding. But already, before the data arrived, Atlas had achieved something profound. It had stirred imagination. It had whispered across light years, across silence, across the narrow band of human awareness, and said, "I am here. Notice me. Remember that the universe is larger than your daily concerns." In the next part of our journey, we will compare Atlas to its fellow travelers, Oumuamua and Borisov. By setting them side by side, we can begin to see patterns, contrasts, and perhaps the first sketch of what interstellar wanderers truly are. When 3I divided by Atlas revealed itself, astronomers could not help but place it alongside the other wanderers we had glimpsed before. Oumuamua in 2017, Borisov in 2019, and now Atlas, three mysterious guests, each bearing the mark of another star system, each carrying its own personality, its own silence, its own story. To understand Atlas, we must hold it against these giants, for together they paint a portrait of interstellar reality that is richer than any one object could provide. Oumuamua was the first, and perhaps the strangest. It arrived like a scout, from far away, an elongated shard, tumbling end over end, puzzling astronomers with its lack of a tail and its subtle acceleration that gravity alone could not explain. Some whispered of alien probes, others of fractured worlds, but the truth remained locked in its swift departure. Oumuamua was a riddle more than an answer, and its gift was to open our imagination to the idea that the heavens were not closed but permeable, that pieces of other stars could pass through our own. Then came Borisov, the second interstellar traveler, blazing more brightly, behaving like a comet should. It grew a tail. It shimmered when the sun touched it, and its chemistry could be measured and studied. Borisov reassured us that Oumuamua had not been an isolated miracle. Interstellar wanderers were real. They could be touched with instruments, analyzed with science, placed into our catalogue of knowledge. Where Oumuamua was an enigma, Borisov was confirmation. And now Atlas appears, carrying traces of both. Like Borisov, it bears ice, though quieter, more subdued, as if reluctant to speak. Like Oumuamua, it carries mysteries, moving in ways that resist easy categorization. Placed among the giants, Atlas becomes the silent sibling, not blazing with spectacle, not shocking with riddles, but whispering with restraint, a figure who seems to hold back more than it reveals. The comparisons matter because they show diversity. Interstellar objects are not uniform. They are fragments of many worlds, each shaped by a different history, each carrying its own scars and silences. Some are radiant, some are dark, some tumble, some glide steadily. This variety suggests abundance. If, in only a few short years, we have encountered 3 such travelers, then the galaxy must be filled with them, countless shards and icy bodies drifting invisibly until chance and sunlight make them visible. They are threads in the great cosmic tapestry, reminders that stars and systems are not isolated islands, but part of a living web, scattering pieces of themselves across interstellar space. To realize this is to feel both small and soothed, for it tells us that the night sky is alive, not static, but in motion, filled with wanderers whose paths occasionally cross our own. Yet beyond the science, there is symbolism. Oumuamua mirrors our unease with the unknown, the foreign presence that does not fit our categories. Borisov mirrors our hunger for familiarity, the reassurance of patterns we recognize. And Atlas, quiet and restrained, mirrors the hidden parts of ourselves, the secrets we carry, the light we do not always show. To see Atlas among these giants is to glimpse ourselves reflected in their diversity. We, too, are scouts, proof-bearers, and silent travelers in our own ways. Just as these objects drift between stars, we drift between questions, between certainties and mysteries, carrying within us fragments of stories not yet told. Atlas among the giants also pushes us toward a larger pattern. If such wanderers are more common than we thought, they may not merely be curiosities. They may be messengers of life, scattering organic molecules across the cosmos, like pollen across a field. Some scientists wonder whether the first seeds of life on Earth were delivered this way, carried by comets from distant systems. If so, then every interstellar traveler is more than rock and ice. It is part of a cosmic garden, fertilizing planets with the potential for growth, carrying whispers of creation across the gulfs of space. Atlas, quiet though it is, may be such a messenger, preserving chemistry older than our planet, delivering it softly, without announcement, into our awareness. To compare Atlas with Oumuamua and Borisov, then, is not only to classify, but to glimpse a philosophy of the cosmos itself. The universe is not silent emptiness, but conversation, each visitor another word, in an endless poem written across light years. Oumuamua's riddle, Borisov's brilliance, Atlas's restraint together, they suggest a dialogue, a pattern we are only beginning to hear. And though we may never hold all the answers, the act of listening changes us. It reminds us that the universe is alive with travelers, and that we too are part of this movement. So as Atlas takes its place among the giants, we feel both humbled and invited. Humbled by the immensity of space, by the variety of its fragments, by the patience of its time, invited to continue, to peer closer, to wonder not only at the paths of these objects, but at our own. For if Atlas is a silent sibling among the giants, then perhaps its greatest gift is the invitation to listen to hear what is whispered in the ice, in the light, in the patient movement of wanderers across the sky. And as we move forward, we will draw nearer still, to the frozen breath of Atlas itself, to see what its body holds, and what ancient secrets it may carry within. When we place Atlas among the giants, we feel the pull to look closer, not at its path or its comparisons, but at its very body. For a comet is not only a wanderer, it is a capsule of time, a frozen breath preserved from the earliest days of the universe. To speak of three, I divided by Atlas, is to speak of ice, of matter untouched for eons, of secrets carried silently across the gulfs of interstellar space. This ice is not like the ice that melts in your glass, nor even the ice that covers polar seas on Earth. It is older, denser, imbued with molecules that were born before our planet existed. To glimpse Atlas is to glimpse the raw ingredients from which worlds arise, the ancient chemistry that predates memory itself. Imagine the universe when it was young, only a few 100 million years after the Big Bang. Hydrogen and helium floated like mist, and dust from the first exploding stars seeded new clouds. Within those clouds, tiny grains of ice condensed, forming around carbon, oxygen, nitrogen elements forged in stellar hearts. Over time, these grains clumped together, growing larger, colliding, sticking, building the raw material of comets. 3 I divided by Atlas may be one of these primordial children, cast adrift before Earth was even a dream. To hold a fragment of it would be to hold a frozen page from the universe's earliest diary. Astronomers suspect that the ices of Atlas contain water frozen in structures older than our oceans. Locked inside might be methane, ammonia, or carbon dioxide chemicals that shaped the evolution of planets and perhaps life itself. When sunlight touches its surface, these molecules begin to stir, sublimating into gas, forming a delicate halo of vapor around the nucleus. This is the moment when the comet breathes, when it reveals something of its hidden essence. And yet, Atlas breathes so softly, more faintly than many expected, as if reluctant to share too much. Its frozen breath is quiet, subtle, like a whisper against the silence of the void. This quietness itself is a mystery. Other comets, when they approach the sun, flare dramatically, their tails stretching across the night. Atlas, by contrast, remains subdued, releasing only thin veils of gas, as if conserving its ancient reserve. Why does it restrain itself? Some speculate that its surface is coated with dark dust, shielding its interior from the sunday. Others think it may already be fractured, its activity dampened by the stresses of its journey. But beyond the science, there is poetry in its restraint. It is a messenger that chooses to speak softly, offering hints rather than declarations, inviting us to listen with patience rather than demand answers. The frozen breath of Atlas also reminds us of our own origins, for it is widely believed that Earth's first water did not rise solely from within, but may have been delivered by comets long ago. In those early days, when the planet was hot and barren, icy bodies rained down, releasing their cargo of water and organic molecules. From those gifts, oceans formed, and, within oceans, life began to stir. If that is true, then every comet carries the potential to seed worlds. And if every star system sends its comets drifting outward, then the galaxy itself is a gardener, scattering life's ingredients like pollen. Atlas, then, may not merely be a traveler. It may be a gardener's hand, carrying the potential for life across the darkness. Think of it. Within its icy body, molecules older than Earth may still be intact. Amino acids, perhaps. Chains of carbon, fragments of sugars, the rudiments of biology. Nothing in science says it must be so, but nothing forbids it either. And so the speculation grows. Comets, like Atlas, could be the vessels of panspermia, the theory that life is not isolated, but migratory, drifting on icy bodies from one world to another. To close your eyes and breathe slowly is to imagine that somewhere, on a planet circling a distant sun, life arose not because of local chance, but because an Atlas passed by long ago, releasing its frozen breath upon fertile ground. But even if Atlas carries no seeds of life, its significance remains, for it preserves the conditions of birth. It is a time capsule, a fragment untouched by the heat and chaos of planets. Most material in the universe has been recycled countless times. Stars form, explode, and form again, their atoms scattered and reassembled. But comets like Atlas can preserve the original mixture, the pristine ingredients from which stars and worlds arise. To study Atlas is to glimpse backward in time, to taste the cosmos as it once was, unaltered, unspoiled. That is why astronomers long to catch even the faintest spectrum of its light, to see the fingerprints of molecules written in its glow. Each line, each color, is a word in a language older than humanity, a story written in ice. And yet, as we lean closer, we must remember that our knowledge will always be partial. Atlas will not linger. Its passage is brief, its breath faint, and before long it will fade again into darkness. We may learn some of its secrets, but never all. Perhaps that is as it should be. For the role of such a traveler is not only to inform, but to remind us that the universe is vaster than our comprehension, that not all mysteries exist to be solved, that some are meant to lull us into wonder. The frozen breath of creation, carried by Atlas, is as much a lullaby as it is a lesson. So as you lie here, listening, imagine that breath. Picture an icy fragment drifting across the stars, carrying within it the cold memory of beginnings. Imagine it glowing faintly as sunlight touches it, releasing a whisper of vapor into the void. Imagine that whisper traveling across space, across time, until it reaches your thoughts tonight. In that moment, the boundaries between then and now, between here and there, dissolve. You too are part of the same story. You too breathe the atoms of ancient stars, the water of ancient comets, the whispers of creation itself. And so we leave Atlas here, breathing softly, carrying its frozen cargo through the heavens. In the next chapter of our journey, we will confront its silence more directly, the strange absence of activity, the quiet puzzles it presents. For if comets are meant to blaze, why does Atlas remain so still? And what does that stillness tell us? Not only about the comet itself, but about the universe, and perhaps about our own longing for answers that never fully arrive. As we turn our gaze closer upon Atlas, a paradox begins to emerge. Comets are known for their drama. They blaze with tails that stretch across the sky, fountains of gas and dust igniting as they near the sun, like fireworks against the black canvas of night. Their arrival has always been marked by spectacle, by brightness, by noise in the language of the stars. And yet, Atlas is different. Instead of dazzling displays, it offers restraint. Instead of thunderous eruptions of vapor, it gives us quiet, subdued activity, as if it has chosen to cloak itself in silence. This strange calm unsettles the expectations of astronomers, who anticipated a radiant comet, but found instead a whisper. The silence of Atlas is not total. Instruments detect faint releases of gas, small signs of sublimation as sunlight warms its frozen surface. But compared to other comets, its voice is muted. It should be shedding brilliant tails of dust, yet it hides them. It should be announcing its presence with brightness, visible to amateur eyes, yet it remains faint, elusive, reserved for telescopes and patient watchers. Why? That is the question that deepens its mystery. Some scientists propose that its surface is covered with a crust of dark dust, insulating its interior, preventing the ices from freely evaporating. Others suggest that its nucleus may already be fractured, weakened by ages of wandering, its activity dampened by exhaustion. Perhaps it was once more vibrant, but now, after untold journeys, it has grown weary, conserving what little remains of its icy breath. In this theory, Atlas is like an old traveler, carrying scars invisible to us, choosing to move quietly rather than blaze. There is a kind of melancholy beauty in that image, a messenger past its prime, still journeying, but with less vigor than before. And yet, there are deeper possibilities. Some astronomers note that its trajectory and behavior do not perfectly match the expectations of a typical comet. They wonder whether its silence signals something more unusual, perhaps a composition unlike any we have studied. What if Atlas's ices are made of exotic materials, frozen under conditions alien to our solar system? What if its chemistry is not only subdued, but entirely different, whispering in a tongue we have not yet learned to translate? To imagine this is to feel the pull of wonder, the possibility that silence itself can be a form of communication, a riddle in need of patient listening. Beyond the science, its quietness speaks to us on another level. We live in a world filled with noise, digital chatter, restless cities, constant alerts. Our skies, too, often roar with airplanes and satellites, cluttering the silence of the stars. Against this backdrop, the hush of Atlas is almost soothing. It drifts across the heavens without spectacle, without demand for attention, like a monk walking silently through a crowded street. Its very refusal to shout makes us lean closer, as though the silence itself were more profound than any blaze could be. Perhaps that is its role, not to dazzle, but to teach, to remind us that not all messages are loud, not all revelations arrive in brilliance. Sometimes, the deepest truths emerge in stillness. Just as we listen to the quiet between heartbeats or the pause between waves, so too must we listen to the silence of Atlas. For in that silence may lie the most important lesson, that the universe does not exist to entertain us, that its beauty is not always measured in spectacle, but often in subtlety. This strange silence also forces us to consider how much we expect of the cosmos. We are drawn to comets for their light shows, their fiery tails, their grand entrances. But Atlas refuses the script. It is not here to perform. It is simply passing through, carrying its frozen cargo, indifferent to our desires. And in that indifference lies a quiet honesty. The universe is not designed to please us. It simply is. Our task is not to demand fireworks, but to find wonder even in whispers. Still, questions persist. Could its faintness be temporary? A pause before sudden brilliance? Comets are unpredictable. They can flare suddenly, breaking apart in bursts of light. Perhaps Atlas will surprise us yet, shedding its veil of silence in a final act of revelation. Or perhaps not. Perhaps it will continue to move quietly, leaving us with only the memory of a muted glow. The suspense itself is part of the story, part of what draws us deeper into contemplation. To imagine Atlas is to imagine a presence slipping through the night, not unlike a dream half remembered. You sense it, faint and elusive, but when you try to grasp it, it fades. This is how its silence works. It invites speculation, reflection, imagination, but never complete possession. It belongs to itself, not to us. And maybe that is the most soothing aspect of all. In a world where so much is claimed, consumed, explained, Atlas remains partly beyond our reach, partly untouchable, a fragment of mystery that refuses to be fully known. As you listen, you might picture it drifting now, far above, a speck of ice wrapped in shadow, moving steadily through the void. You will not hear it, you will not feel it, but it is there, carrying its strange silence across light years, whispering not with words, but with presence. And in the quiet of your own room, in the hush between your own breaths, you might feel a kinship with it, a recognition that silence too has meaning, that stillness too is a kind of voice. So we leave Atlas here, a figure of restraint among a universe of fire and noise. Its silence is not emptiness, but invitation, reminding us to listen not only to what is said, but to what is left unsaid. And as we continue, we will turn from the silence to the light, to the subtle signals hidden within the glow it does produce. For even in restraint, Atlas reveals patterns, variations, and hints of secrets within. And in those signals, perhaps, lies the key to its hidden identity. Though Atlas carries itself with silence, faint and restrained compared to the brilliance of its kin, its light is not empty. Even in the quiet, there are subtle signals, tiny fluctuations, delicate variations that suggest something hidden within. Astronomers learned long ago that light is a language, one that can reveal the unseen. Every star, every planet, every comet speaks in this language, not with sound, but with the shifting glow of photons. And so, they turned their instruments toward three. Eye, divided by Atlas, searching not for spectacle, but for whispers written in light. What they found was intriguing. The glow of Atlas was not steady. It pulsed faintly, irregularly, as though shaped by shadows within its body. These variations hinted that Atlas might not be uniform, but instead fractured, with uneven surfaces reflecting sunlight in unpredictable ways. Like a mirror cracked into many pieces, each shard catching light differently, Atlas seemed to flicker with subtle messages about its hidden structure. Some astronomers suggested that this meant Atlas was tumbling slowly, turning in space so that sunlight touched different sides at different times. Others believed the signals pointed to jets of gas, faint outbursts from vents that opened only briefly, like sighs escaping from beneath its crust. Each interpretation added another layer of mystery. If the comet was fractured, what forces had broken it? If it was venting, what reservoirs of frozen gas lay hidden deep inside? The light was a clue, but never a full answer. Beyond the scientific readings, there is something poetic about this flickering glow. Imagine a candle placed far across a dark field. From a distance, its flame seems steady, but when you draw closer, you notice it dances, bending with unseen currents of air. The light of Atlas is like that, delicate, shifting, alive. It is not the roar of fire, but the murmur of a flame resisting darkness. In its signals, we are invited to read not just data, but story, as though the comet itself were writing across the night sky in a language of shimmering. To those who search for meaning, these signals suggest depth. Perhaps Atlas carries a complex interior, layers of ice and rock, entwined like the rings of a tree, each layer recording a chapter of its long history. Perhaps within its body lie molecules that once drifted through interstellar clouds, touched by starlight long extinguished. The flickering glow, then, is not only the reflection of the sun, but the echo of countless ages carried in silence. Astronomers often measure the spectrum of light, spreading it into its colors like a prism. In those lines and patterns are the fingerprints of elements: hydrogen, carbon, oxygen, nitrogen. To analyze Atlas's spectrum is to hear its voice more clearly, to translate its faint whispers into words. And what emerges is a suggestion of water, of carbon compounds, of familiar chemistry woven into alien silence. Each signal tells us that Atlas is not foreign in essence, but kin to the comets of our own system, even as it comes from elsewhere. It is both stranger and sibling, both distant and near. Yet, in the variations of its light, there are also anomalies, subtle shifts that do not match perfectly with expectations. Some scientists wonder if this points to hidden minerals or to structures unlike any we have catalogued. Perhaps Atlas holds exotic ices, frozen under pressures and conditions not found in our corner of the galaxy. Perhaps its very core is different, carrying a chemical fingerprint from a star system unlike our own. If so, then every flicker is not only a clue about Atlas, but a clue about the diversity of worlds across the cosmos. There is a kind of dreamlike wonder in imagining this. Picture Atlas as a book drifting through space. Its cover worn, its pages frozen shut. We cannot open it fully, cannot read its chapters, but now and then, as it turns in sunlight, a page glints, a word shines, a sentence escapes. The signals in its light are those fragments, tantalizing glimpses of a story we will never fully hold. And yet, those glimpses are enough to stir us, to remind us that knowledge is not always complete, that sometimes half a story is more powerful than the whole. For listeners like you, lying quietly as you hear this tale, the signals of Atlas can be imagined as a lullaby. Each flicker is a note, faint but rhythmic, carried across space like music, too soft for the ear, but perfect for the heart. You may not hear it directly, but you can feel it, a slow pulse reminding you of the connection between stars and breath, between light and life. Just as your heart beats with quiet signals of its own, Atlas, too, beats faintly, pulsing with the rhythm of ancient creation. Some philosophers have suggested that in every flicker of cosmic light lies a question meant for us. What do we see in the variations? Do we see randomness, chaos, the meaningless shifts of matter? Or do we see patterns, whispers of order, hints of purpose? The answer is less important than the act of wondering, for it is the wondering itself that connects us to the vastness. To wonder is to participate, to breathe with the universe rather than merely observe it. In that sense, the signals in Atlas's light are not only scientific data, but invitations to reflect on the meaning of silence, the beauty of subtlety, the allure of the unknown. And so, as we continue to follow this interstellar traveler, we carry with us the awareness that even in silence, there are voices. Even in faintness, there is brilliance. Atlas may not blaze across the heavens like its cousins, but it does not need to. Its flickering light is enough, a signal across time and distance, telling us that it exists, that it carries within itself the memory of places we will never see, and that it is willing, for a brief moment, to share its story with us. In the next stage of our journey, we will draw closer to its very heart, to the secret core that remains hidden beneath crust and shadow, for the signals in its light only hint at the truth. The deeper mystery lies within, in the dark nucleus that holds the ancient breath of stars. And so, with patience, we turn from the surface to the interior, from the flicker to the source, to ask, what lies within the secret heart of Atlas? The outer whispers of Atlas, its faint light, its subdued breath of vapor, are only the beginning of its story. Beneath the quiet glow lies a deeper mystery, a hidden heart encased in ice and dust. Every comet carries within it a nucleus, a dark core that resists the gaze of telescopes, a place where secrets are preserved for billions of years. In the case of 3I divided by Atlas, this secret core is not just a piece of frozen matter, but a vessel of possibility, a container for questions that reach beyond science into the realm of wonder. To imagine its nucleus is to imagine the invisible, to picture the soul of a traveler that has crossed the gulfs between stars. When astronomers study comets, they often see only the glowing halos and tails, the outward signs of sublimation. The nucleus itself remains hidden, cloaked in dust, shrouded in shadow. Even spacecraft that have flown past comets have only caught glimpses of these cores, dark, irregular, pitted with scars of eruptions. They look less like icy jewels and more like ancient rocks, battered and rough, as though carved by time. If Atlas follows this pattern, then its nucleus may be a jagged body, blackened by radiation, layered with crust, protecting the fragile ices within. Yet, because it is interstellar, because it comes from elsewhere, it may also be different in ways we cannot yet imagine. Its core might hold minerals unknown to our world, or structures formed under alien suns. The question that stirs is whether this core contains not only ice and rock, but something more, a hidden chemistry that carries the fingerprint of another system's creation. In its frozen chambers could lie compounds that reveal the diversity of star-forming regions, perhaps molecules shaped by conditions unlike any in our neighborhood. To study such material would be to study another world's history, preserved in a capsule no larger than a mountain. It would be like finding a message in a bottle cast across the cosmic sea, surviving eons to reach our shores. There are those who dream that such a core might carry the seeds of life. Not life itself, not organisms, but the building blocks, the amino acids, the carbon chains, the organic whispers that could one day become living cells. The theory of panspermia suggests that comets are gardeners, scattering these seeds across planets. If Atlas carries such compounds, then its secret heart is more than geology. It is the cradle of potential, a womb of chemistry drifting through interstellar space. To imagine this is to see the universe not as barren, but as fertile, scattering possibilities like pollen on the wind. But even if it carries nothing so dramatic, the nucleus of Atlas is still profound. It is untouched, unaltered, preserved. While planets are melted and reshaped, while stars burn and explode, a comet's core can remain as it was at the beginning. That means Atlas may still hold the raw materials from which its parent star system formed. It is a fossil of creation, a silent archive, a fragment of the dawn locked away in shadow. In that sense, its heart is a memory, one that predates Earth itself. To glimpse it would be to glimpse backward in time, to touch the infancy of worlds. The difficulty, of course, is that this secret core is beyond our reach. Atlas will not pass close enough for a spacecraft to intercept. We can only watch from afar, measuring the faint light it sheds, guessing at what lies within. This limitation is both frustrating and humbling. We long to know, to analyze, to hold, yet the universe reminds us that not all secrets are meant to be opened. Some remain sealed, leaving us to imagine, and in imagination lies its own kind of truth. For the act of wondering binds us more deeply to the mystery than possession ever could. So we imagine. We picture the dark surface of Atlas's nucleus, rough and scarred, turning slowly in the void. We picture fissures where sunlight sneaks in, releasing faint sighs of vapor. We picture layers of ice, some crystalline, some amorphous, preserving patterns of molecules from another time, another place. Perhaps deep inside there are cavities, empty spaces where ancient gases wait to be stirred. Perhaps there are veins of frozen carbon, black as night, that never once felt the touch of light. Perhaps there are delicate lattices of compounds we cannot yet name, fragile but eternal, carried across the gulfs without decay. There is something soothing in this imagining. Just as your own heart beats silently, carrying your life without announcing itself, so too does Atlas carry its hidden heart across the stars. You cannot see it, cannot touch it, but you know it is there, sustaining the journey. In that sense, its secret core mirrors our own inner lives. Each of us has a hidden self, a place of memories, dreams, and fears that no one else can fully see. We too carry silent cores, preserved through the journeys of our lives. And just as Atlas whispers through its faint glow, we reveal parts of our hearts only indirectly, through gestures, words, and silences. The speculation continues. Some scientists suggest that the irregular flickering of its light may be caused by fragments around its core, debris held loosely by gravity, orbiting like tiny moons. If true, then its nucleus may not be alone, but accompanied, surrounded by echoes of its own history. Others wonder if its density is unusual, perhaps porous like a sponge, or heavier than expected, suggesting hidden metals. Each theory deepens the sense that this core is not simply a lump of ice, but a complex world in miniature, filled with possibilities. As Atlas moves on, we will never see its heart directly. It will remain in shadow, hidden, sealed away. And yet, perhaps, that is fitting. Not all mysteries are meant to be solved. Some exist to remind us that the universe is greater than our reach, that there will always be places we cannot enter, secrets we cannot hold. In that humility lies a quiet peace. We do not need to know everything. Sometimes it is enough to gaze upward, to wonder, to let the imagination carry us into places where instruments cannot go. So we leave Atlas here, with its secret core intact, a silent nucleus drifting between stars. We may never touch it, but we can dream of it, and in dreaming, we participate in its mystery. And as we drift onward in this story, we will consider what that core may carry beyond chemistry, the possibility of life's first whispers, the seeds that comets scatter across the universe. For in the next chapter, we will follow Atlas into the realm of speculation, into the idea that such wanderers may carry not only memory, but potential, not only matter, but meaning. The frozen core of Atlas does more than preserve chemistry. It awakens an ancient question that has followed humanity for centuries. Could comets be the carriers of life's beginnings? In its faint breath, in its hidden molecules, lies the possibility that Atlas and travelers like it are not only wanderers, but gardeners of the cosmos, scattering seeds of potential wherever they roam. These are not seeds in the form of flowers or trees, but microscopic fragments, organic compounds, amino acids, sugars that together form the whispers of life. The idea is both scientific and poetic, that existence itself may not be bound to one planet, but born of countless comets whispering their cargo into fertile worlds. Long before modern science, human beings sensed that the sky held power over life. Ancient cultures saw comets as messengers of change, bringers of fate. They did not speak of molecules or amino acids, yet in their myths there was an intuition that comets carried more than light. Today, science gives us a clearer language. Spectral studies of comets have revealed the presence of organic molecules: hydrogen cyanide, formaldehyde, glycine, the simplest amino acid. These are not life, but they are its building blocks, the alphabet of biology. To find them in comets is to hear a whisper that perhaps the first steps of life on Earth were written not in volcanic pools alone, but in the icy gifts delivered from above. The theory of panspermia rests upon this possibility. Imagine a young Earth, barren and hot, bombarded by comets and asteroids. Each impact releases water, carbon, and organic fragments into the atmosphere and oceans. Over time, these ingredients mingle, forming the first complex molecules, and from them, the first living cells. If so, then we are not only children of Earth, but children of the stars, born from the gifts of comets like Atlas. And if that is true for us, then it could be true for countless others. Every world that receives such a gift might one day awaken with its own breath, its own forests, its own voices rising to the stars. Atlas, drifting silently across our skies, may carry such whispers within. Its frozen interior might contain amino acids formed in the depths of interstellar clouds, preserved for billions of years. Each molecule, simple yet profound, is a note in a symphony that could play across galaxies. When sunlight stirs Atlas, when its ices sublimate into vapor, it is as if the comet exhales, releasing not only gas and dust, but the faint scent of possibility. To imagine standing beneath such a release is to imagine breathing in the same chemistry that once seeded life itself. Some skeptics argue that panspermia remains unproven, that comets cannot withstand the violence of impact, that fragile molecules would be destroyed. But experiments have shown that certain amino acids can survive the pressures of collision, that even under fire and shock, life's alphabet is resilient. Life, it seems, clings stubbornly to existence, finding ways to endure even in harsh conditions. And so, the possibility remains open, not as certainty, but as invitation. In this whisper lies something deeply comforting. For if life's seeds are scattered across the cosmos, then we are not an accident isolated in the void. We are part of a greater continuity, linked not only to Earth, but to all worlds where comets fall. The night sky, then, is not only a canvas of stars, but a garden, alive with invisible planting. Atlas becomes a gardener's hand, passing gently through, scattering molecules like pollen drifting on the wind. We may never see the blossoms it leaves behind, but they may bloom somewhere, someday, under another Sunday. And there is a mirror in this thought. Just as Atlas may carry seeds of life, so too do we carry seeds of wonder. Each time we gaze upward, each time we tell stories of the stars, we scatter ideas into the minds of others, ideas that may grow into dreams. In this way, humanity itself participates in panspermia of the spirit. We carry curiosity, imagination, longing, and we plant them, generation to generation, across time. Atlas whispers seeds of chemistry. We whisper seeds of meaning. Both are necessary. Both make the cosmos fertile. Astronomers may never confirm exactly what Atlas carries within, but that does not diminish its role. It reminds us that the boundaries of life are larger than we think. Life is not confined to oceans or forests or cities. Its ingredients drift in clouds, freeze in comets, scatter in dust. To reflect on this is to expand our sense of home. We are not only of Earth, we are of the cosmos. Every breath you take contains atoms forged in distant stars, water that may once have been frozen in a comet, molecules that drifted for ages before finding you. You are already part of panspermia, part of the great scattering of existence. So, as you lie listening, imagine Atlas as a gentle hand sowing invisible seeds across the night. Picture it moving silently, sunlight brushing its icy surface, releasing faint streams of vapor into space. Within that vapor, imagine delicate molecules, tiny and unseen, floating outward, carried on cosmic winds. Some will vanish into darkness. Some will be caught by planets. Some may settle on fertile ground, and one day, perhaps, awaken into life. To think of this is to feel the quiet resilience of creation, the patient persistence of the universe itself. And yet, we must accept that Atlas will pass us by, leaving only questions and whispers. We cannot capture all of its secrets. But perhaps that is enough. For sometimes, the value of a traveler is not in the proof it leaves, but in the questions it inspires. Atlas whispers not only of seeds, but of our own longing to know where we come from and where life itself begins. In that whisper, we are invited to dream larger, to see ourselves not as solitary beings, but as part of a vast web of possibility, stretching across galaxies. As we move forward, we will leave these seeds to their mystery and turn toward another layer of Atlas's story, the myths that humanity has long wrapped around comets. For long before we spoke of amino acids or organic molecules, we told stories of omens, gods, and fates written in the sky. And in those forgotten myths, Atlas too finds a place, woven into the tapestry of meaning that humanity has always sought in the stars. Long before telescopes and spectrometers, before equations traced orbits and spectra revealed molecules, humanity looked up at comets and gave them stories. The night sky was a canvas of gods and monsters, and comets were not silent travelers, but messengers, omens, warnings, or gifts from realms beyond. Every culture, in its own way, wove these glowing wanderers into myth, turning their sudden appearance into meaning. And though we now speak of comets like Atlas with the language of science, the echoes of those myths remain, whispering to us that perhaps the human heart still needs more than data, it needs stories. In ancient China, comets were known as broom stars, sweeping across the heavens. Their sudden arrival was seen as a sign of change, sometimes cleansing, sometimes disastrous. The emperor's astrologers would watch the skies carefully, for a comet could mean the rise or fall of dynasties, a celestial signal that human affairs were entwined with cosmic rhythms. When Atlas drifts quietly across our sky, we might remember those Chinese stargazers, imagining it as a broom, gently brushing the darkness, leaving behind not destruction, but a path cleared for something new. In the Mediterranean world, comets often carried darker meanings. To the Romans, they were harbingers of war and death, linked to the passing of rulers or the fall of empires. The appearance of a comet before the death of Julius Caesar was taken as a divine sign, proof that the gods were marking the end of an age. Atlas, were it seen in those days, would likely have been described as an omen too, its faint glow woven into the fabric of politics and fear. And yet, perhaps even then, poets would have seen something gentler, a reminder of transience, of the fleeting nature of power compared to the vast, indifferent sky. The Norse saw comets as fiery spears, hurled across the heavens in battles of the gods. To them, the night sky was a battlefield, each streak of light a weapon thrown in eternal conflict. If Atlas had been noticed in those northern nights, perhaps it would have been called a weapon of frost rather than fire, a silent spear gliding not with violence but with restraint. Its quietness would not have lessened its significance. It would have been folded into the saga of gods who shaped the world with fire, ice, and silence. Elsewhere, myths carried gentler tones. Some Polynesian traditions saw comets as travelers, much like canoes crossing the sea. They were signs of journeys, markers of paths, guides for navigation. Atlas too can be seen this way, a canoe of ice and dust, sailing not on water, but on the ocean of stars. Its passage is not a threat, but a reminder that all life is journey, that all beings are travelers, that the universe itself is an ocean with no shore. Even in Africa, where stories were passed through generations in rhythm and song, the Dogon people of Mali held myths of Sirius and its companions, whispering of knowledge embedded in the stars. For them, celestial objects were not random but purposeful, carriers of meaning that connected the human to the divine. Atlas, though unobserved in their time, would have fit naturally into such a world view, a messenger, a being that does not simply pass but speaks, even if the language is silence and faint light. Modern astronomy may not speak of omens, yet the echo of these myths still lingers. When news headlines describe a new comet, the language often slips into the old patterns. Words like ominous, mysterious, or sign fill the pages. Our rational minds may know better, but our hearts still respond to the idea that the sky is speaking to us. Atlas, with its quiet glow, becomes not only an object of study, but a vessel of imagination. In it, we can place our fears of change, our hopes for renewal, our questions about destiny. What unites all these myths is the human need to weave meaning from mystery. The sudden arrival of a comet was too striking to ignore. It had to be explained, and explanation became story. Those stories carried weight, guiding decisions, shaping cultures, inspiring art. Today, though we can calculate orbits and chart chemical spectra, we are still telling stories. We speak of Atlas as a messenger, a gardener, a traveler, a mirror. These are not scientific terms, but they reveal something truer. That meaning does not vanish with knowledge. It evolves, finding new forms in the language of our age. And perhaps this is the role Atlas plays best. It bridges myth and science, reminding us that both are ways of seeing. Science measures what is, myth imagines what it means. Together, they lull us into a deeper understanding, not only of comets, but of ourselves. Atlas whispers with molecules, but we hear it as poetry. It shines with reflected sunlight, but we see it as a sign. The echo of forgotten myths lives on, not in temples or sagas, but in the quiet thrill we feel when we know a stranger from beyond is passing through our sky. So, as you close your eyes tonight, imagine Atlas as all these myths at once. Picture it as a broom star, sweeping the heavens clean, as a sign of endings and beginnings, as a silent spear of frost, as a canoe gliding across the cosmic sea. Let these images mingle with the science, so that your dreams become both myth and fact, both wonder and knowledge. For in the end, the comet does not ask us to choose. It allows us to listen to the echoes of forgotten myths while still learning the truths of chemistry and orbit. Both are valid, both are beautiful. And as we move forward, we leave these echoes behind, not silenced, but woven into our memory of Atlas. For the next step in our journey will not be myth alone, but reflection. Atlas is more than comet, more than story. It is also a mirror, one that reflects back our own questions, our own place in the cosmos. And to look into that mirror is to see ourselves more clearly, framed by the vastness of the stars. Every comet tells a story of the universe, but Atlas does something more subtle. It reflects a story about us. To call it a mirror is not to say it shows us our faces in its icy surface, but rather that its journey, its silence, and its mystery become symbols in which we can see our own existence. When we look at Atlas, drifting across the night, we are not only learning about chemistry and orbits, we are also learning about what it means to be human, to wander, to carry secrets, to shine faintly yet persistently against the darkness. Consider first the idea of the traveler. Atlas has crossed the gulfs between stars, a wanderer without home, moving steadily through silence. How different is that from our own sense of life? Each of us is a traveler too, moving through time rather than space, crossing years instead of light years. We carry within us the fragments of our past, memories like frozen molecules, some shining, some hidden. Like Atlas, we may reveal only a fraction of ourselves to others, a faint glow here, a flicker there, while the deeper core remains unseen. To think of Atlas as a mirror is to recognize our own hidden journeys, the parts of our lives that drift unseen yet define who we are. There is also the silence. Atlas, unlike other comets, does not roar with brilliance. Its tail is faint, its outbursts subdued, as though it has chosen restraint. And we too know the weight of silence. There are times when words fail us, when we cannot, or will not, express everything inside. There are parts of our hearts that remain unspoken, protected beneath layers of dust and crust. Atlas mirrors this truth, that silence is not emptiness, but depth. Just as its muted voice conceals ancient chemistry, our silences conceal histories and emotions that cannot always be shouted into light. To look at Atlas is to be reminded that quietness has its own dignity, its own meaning. Then there is fragility. Comets are fragile bodies. They fracture, they crumble. Sometimes they disintegrate entirely when they approach the heat of a star. Atlas has shown signs of such weakness, perhaps already broken within, carrying scars of long wandering. How much does this mirror our own vulnerability? We too are fragile, our lives brief compared to the ages of stars, our bodies subject to decay. And yet, fragility does not erase significance. On the contrary, it heightens it. The fleeting passage of Atlas, faint and temporary, makes it more precious, just as our own lives, brief and uncertain, are made more meaningful by their very impermanence. In Atlas, we see the truth that endurance is not always measured by strength, but sometimes by the courage to continue despite fragility. Atlas also mirrors our search for meaning. Throughout history, comets have been read as signs, omens, symbols. We now know they are natural objects, yet still we project onto them our questions. When we gaze at Atlas, we ask, what does it tell us? Is it a seed carrier of life, a relic of creation, a messenger from beyond? In truth, it is all, and none of these it is what it is, and we are the ones weaving meaning. This act of projection is deeply human. We see ourselves in the stars because we are always seeking reflection, always searching for stories that place us in the vastness. Atlas reminds us that meaning is not discovered but created, not given but imagined, and in that act of imagination we find connection. To think of Atlas as a mirror is also to see resilience. Though faint, though silent, though fragile, it has crossed unimaginable distances. It has endured the cold of interstellar space, the emptiness that would erase lesser bodies. For millions, perhaps billions of years, it has persisted, carrying its hidden cargo, until finally it brushed against our awareness. How different is that from the resilience we hold? Each of us carries burdens, journeys through loneliness, endures nights that seem endless, and yet, like Atlas, we continue. We move forward, slowly, quietly, but still with light enough to be seen. Its resilience is our resilience, mirrored in the vastness of the cosmos. There is also a mirror of humility. Atlas passes through without spectacle for most of the world. Few will ever notice it. Its presence is not shouted across the headlines. Its glow is too faint for casual eyes. And yet, it exists. It matters. It is part of the great story of the universe. We too may feel unnoticed at times, our efforts small, our glow faint. But Atlas reminds us that even faint light has meaning. Even small presences belong to the larger pattern. We are not required to blaze like suns to be significant. Sometimes it is enough simply to be, to continue, to move forward with quiet persistence. In all of this, Atlas becomes not only an object of study, but a companion of reflection. Its silence invites our silence. Its fragility invites our compassion. Its resilience invites our hope. And its faint light, shining across the void, becomes a mirror in which we glimpse our own journey. We see not a distant comet alone, but ourselves, wandering together through mystery, carrying questions, seeking meaning, and leaving behind faint trails of light. So as you listen, allow yourself to feel this mirror. Picture Atlas drifting across the sky, faint but steady, and let it reflect your own life back to you. Let its journey remind you of your own endurance, its silence remind you of the dignity of your own unspoken depths, its fragility remind you of the preciousness of your own fleeting moments. In this way, Atlas is not only a comet, it is a companion, a reminder that even across the cold gulfs of space, you are not alone in your wandering. And, as we move onward in our story, we will turn from reflection to chemistry once again, for after the mirror comes the fire, after the silence comes the reaction. When sunlight warms the ices of Atlas, something stirs a strange and beautiful process where ice becomes vapor, where frozen breath becomes sudden brilliance. We will leave the mirror now and step into the glow to see what happens when ice burns and how Atlas transforms before our eyes. At first glance, the phrase seems impossible. Ice does not burn, we think. Fire and frost are opposites, sworn enemies in the balance of nature. Yet when we look at comets, when we look at Atlas, we see this paradox become truth. For when sunlight touches the frozen body of a comet, ice does burn not with flames of fire, but with a transformation that is every bit as dramatic. It sublimates, shifting directly from solid to gas, a silent explosion that creates shimmering tails and halos. The burning of ice is the secret life of comets, and in Atlas, this burning takes on a unique, subdued, but deeply evocative form. When Atlas approached the warmth of the sun, astronomers expected spectacle. They anticipated fountains of vapor, long tails stretching across the heavens, a body erupting in glory. And yet, as we have seen, Atlas is quieter than most. Still, even in its restraint, the burning of its ice continues. Sunlight seeps into the cracks of its surface, into fissures hidden beneath dust, awakening molecules that have slept for billions of years. These molecules stir, break free, and rise into the void, forming a delicate envelope around the comet's core. This is its coma, the faint halo that glows as photons strike the newly released gases. It is not fire, but it is radiance, a radiance born from the burning of ice. What is remarkable about this process is its poetry. To think of ice burning is to think of opposites reconciled, of elements merging into something new. On Earth, fire consumes, ice preserves. But on a comet, ice itself becomes a kind of flame, shining not by destruction, but by transformation. In this way, comets embody a balance of fragility and power. Their icy bodies can fracture, crumble, vanish in sunlight, and yet, in that very fragility, they produce the beauty that captures our eyes. They are ephemeral, fleeting, yet radiant. Atlas mirrors this paradox perfectly. Its ice burns quietly, less flamboyant than others, but still real, still beautiful. The chemistry of this burning is both simple and profound. Water ice turns into vapor, carbon dioxide escapes, methane releases faint trails of gas. These molecules scatter sunlight, creating the visible halo. Dust particles are lifted as well, pushed outward by the faint pressure of light, forming the tail that streams away from the Sunday Each component is ordinary in itself: water, carbon, dust. Yet together, in this cosmic alchemy, they become extraordinary, a spectacle of transformation. When you look at a comet's glow, you are not seeing fire, but the exhalation of ancient ice, a frozen memory awakening in light. In Atlas, this awakening is subtle, subdued, as though the comet prefers whispers to shouts. But this restraint does not lessen the wonder. If anything, it heightens it. For it invites us to imagine the process more intimately, to see not the blaze but the breath. Picture the surface of Atlas, dark and rough, warmed by sunlight. Imagine a tiny crack opening, a plume of vapor slipping free, drifting upward in silence. Imagine dust grains lifted gently, falling into the tail that stretches faintly behind. This is not spectacle for the eye, but poetry for the mind. A slow, delicate burning, a quiet transformation. The symbolism is as powerful as the science, for we too carry frozen parts of ourselves, memories, dreams, hopes buried beneath the dust of daily life. And when the warmth of love or curiosity touches us, those frozen parts awaken. We too burn our ice, releasing whispers of who we are into the world. Sometimes it is dramatic, but often it is quiet, subtle, easily missed, unless one pays attention. Atlas becomes a mirror again, showing us that transformation does not always roar. Sometimes it is gentle, gradual, patient, but no less real. There is also fragility in this burning, for comets can break apart under the stress of sublimation. As ice vaporizes, internal pressures build, cracks deepen, entire fragments may split away. Some comets do not survive their encounters with the sun. They dissolve, leaving behind only streams of dust. Atlas has shown signs of such fracture, hinting that its journey may be one of slow unraveling. If it crumbles, its burning will be both its death and its final gift, a scattering of material across space, perhaps to one day touch another world. In this way, the burning of ice is not only beauty, but sacrifice. And yet, there is comfort in that too. For even in disintegration, the comet continues its role as messenger. Its dust becomes part of meteor showers. Its gases enrich the space it passes through. Nothing is truly lost. It only changes form. This, too, is part of the paradox, that burning is not destruction but transformation, that endings are also beginnings. Atlas teaches us this lesson in its quiet burning, reminding us that even when things fall apart, they contribute to the larger story, scattering their essence into new forms. To lie here and imagine this process is to feel a kinship with the universe. Imagine the frozen body of Atlas slowly warming, its breath rising into the void, its faint halo forming like a crown of light. Imagine the molecules, each one older than Earth, freed at last into the vastness. Imagine them drifting, some carried by solar wind into space, some falling gently back to the surface, some forming trails that will one day intersect with our own skies as meteors. The burning of ice is not just an astronomical event. It is a cosmic meditation on change, fragility, and persistence. And so, when we say, "ice burns," we speak not of contradiction, but of truth. In Atlas, ice does burn not with flames, but with transformation, with release, with quiet radiance. It is a reminder that opposites can coexist, that fragility can create beauty, that silence can carry power. As Atlas continues its journey, we watch this burning unfold, faint but steady, and in its glow we see not only the chemistry of a comet, but the poetry of existence itself. From here, our story must follow Atlas into its next chapter, for the burning of ice is not without consequence. It weakens the body, deepens cracks, foretells fragmentation. Atlas carries the signs of strain, and astronomers suspect it may not remain whole. The path ahead may be one of fracture, of disintegration, of fading into streams of dust. And so, in the next chapter, we will watch Atlas at this fragile moment, walking the line between endurance and collapse, whispering its story even as it begins to break apart. Comets are fragile things. They look eternal, drifting across the heavens like ancient stones, but their cores are brittle, their surfaces riddled with cracks, their bodies held together by little more than ice and dust bound in a delicate balance. For Atlas, this fragility has begun to show itself. Observations reveal signs of stress in its structure, a suggestion that its body is not whole, that beneath its silent glow, it may already be breaking apart. Its path, though steady in orbit, is fractured in essence, the journey of a traveler carrying the weight of its own unraveling. When sunlight warms the surface of a comet, sublimation begins, gas escaping from within, carrying dust and particles outward. For most comets, this creates brilliant tails. For Atlas, it creates strain. The pressure inside finds fissures and weaknesses, widening cracks, pulling the body apart. Astronomers who study its light notice fluctuations too irregular to be explained by rotation alone, as though different fragments are reflecting sunlight independently. To some, this suggests Atlas is no longer a single, intact traveler, but a cluster of pieces, bound loosely, drifting together for now, but destined to separate. There is a melancholy beauty in this image. Imagine Atlas as a vessel that has wandered for millions of years, enduring the cold silence of interstellar space, only to fracture when touched by the warmth of a star. Its long journey has carried it through unimaginable distances, but in the end, its undoing comes not from the void, but from light itself. There is poetry here, the idea that what awakens also unravels, that the very process of shining reveals the fractures within. And perhaps, in its quiet way, Atlas reminds us of our own fragility, of how even in our brightest moments, we carry cracks that time and pressure have carved. Some comets have famously broken apart before our eyes. Shoemaker Levy 9, pulled into fragments by Jupiter's gravity, became a string of pearls that later crashed into the planet, leaving scars across its atmosphere. Comet Ison, once heralded as the comet of the century, disintegrated near the sun, fading into dust before it could dazzle Earth's skies. Atlas may follow this path. Already, its silence, its subdued activity, its flickering signals point toward instability. Its fractured path may end in disintegration, a fading trail of particles scattered into space. And yet, there is no tragedy in this, for even in breaking, Atlas continues its role as messenger. Its fragments will still carry the chemistry of distant stars. Its dust will still join the great cloud of interstellar material. Perhaps, one day, those fragments will seed another world, another ocean, another spark of life. Just as fallen leaves enrich the soil, so too do broken comets enrich the cosmos. The path of fracture is not the end of meaning, but a transformation of it. For us, the fractured path mirrors the truth of our own lives. We too carry fractures, scars of loss, cracks of failure, moments when we feel we are breaking apart, and yet, from those fractures, new paths emerge. Relationships, insights, resilience, these are born not from perfection, but from the places where we have been broken. Atlas shows us that fragility is not the opposite of strength, but part of its story. A fractured traveler still travels. A broken path still leads onward. Astronomers continue to watch closely, measuring the faint variations of Atlas's light, hoping to confirm whether it is indeed breaking. But even without certainty, the suspicion itself changes the way we see it. No longer just a wanderer, Atlas becomes a fragile companion, a being nearing the end of its journey. Its path is no longer simply one of passage, but of transformation, perhaps of dissolution. And in that transformation, we are invited to reflect on impermanence, on the fleeting nature of beauty, on the truth that all things, even stars, even galaxies, carry within them the seeds of their own ending. As you listen, you might imagine Atlas now, drifting silently, a faint body carrying fractures invisible to the eye. Picture sunlight slipping into its cracks, gas escaping, dust loosening, fragments straining to separate. Picture it holding together for now, but with every rotation, every moment of warmth, weakening further. It is both whole and broken, both one and many, both present and already fading. This duality is part of its beauty, part of what makes it so haunting to imagine. And perhaps, in this moment, Atlas is teaching us the gentlest of lessons, that endings are not sudden, but gradual, that breaking is not failure, but transformation. The fractured path is not only a path of loss, but also of scattering, of giving, of leaving something behind. As Atlas drifts, it leaves trails of dust, signals of light, whispers of chemistry. Even as it fractures, it continues to share, to contribute, to belong to the larger story of the cosmos. So let us not mourn its breaking. Let us instead see it as part of the cycle, part of the rhythm of creation and dissolution. Just as stars burn out, just as galaxies collide, just as lives begin and end, so too do comets fracture and fade. In their passing, they remind us that permanence is an illusion, that beauty is fleeting, and that this fleetingness is what makes it precious. From here, our journey with Atlas must continue beyond its fractures, for even as it breaks, it carries memories of what it has seen. It has crossed distances we cannot fathom, moved through epochs we cannot imagine. Its fractured path does not erase its story, it deepens it. And so, in the next chapter, we will look beyond human eyes, beyond what instruments can see, and imagine what Atlas has witnessed in its long passage through the cosmos. For in the silence of its fragments lies the memory of stars, galaxies, and time itself. Atlas is more than what we measure. Its fractured body, its faint light, its quiet breath, these are only the fragments that fall within our reach. The truth of Atlas extends far beyond human eyes, into journeys and vistas we cannot directly witness, but can only imagine. For this comet, cast out of its home long ago, has drifted through regions of the cosmos where no telescope follows, where no spacecraft travels, where only silence and time are companions. To picture Atlas is to picture the unseen, to let our minds travel beyond the boundaries of vision and into the wide expanse of cosmic memory. We know that interstellar space is vast, but vastness is too mild a word. It is an ocean without horizon, where distances between stars measure in light years, where centuries pass, without the nearest glimmer shifting its place. Atlas has crossed this ocean. Perhaps it began near a distant sun, orbiting in an icy belt at the edge of its system, until some giant planet or passing star flung it outward. Since then, it has traveled through voids so empty that a grain of dust might drift alone for centuries without meeting another. To us, these voids seem barren, but Atlas has seen them up close. It has carried the silence of those regions with it, the silence that presses so gently it becomes part of the traveler's own essence. But the cosmos is not only silence, it is also eruption and chaos, and Atlas may have drifted near them as well. Imagine it passing through the faint outskirts of a supernova's shock wave, brushing against dust expelled by a dying star. Perhaps some of the atoms on its surface were laid there by such encounters, touched by the remains of suns that burned out long before Earth was born. Perhaps it passed near nebulae, those clouds of gas lit by newborn stars, their colors invisible to human eyes but radiant in ultraviolet and infrared. To drift near such regions is to witness creation itself, worlds forming, stars igniting, gravity sculpting the raw material of existence. Atlas may also have seen collisions on scales that dwarf imagination. Galaxies themselves collide, their stars slipping past one another while their gas clouds crash, sparking new generations of suns. In its long wanderings, Atlas might have traveled through a galaxy not its own, glimpsing skies unfamiliar, constellations unrecognizable. It might have floated past planetary systems we will never chart, past worlds that might now be rich with forests and oceans, or perhaps barren and silent. The comet is not alive to record these things, yet in its body it may carry traces dust from alien stars, ices formed in alien shadows. To imagine what Atlas has seen is to imagine the diversity of the universe, the infinite variations of creation scattered across time and space. And yet, for all that it has drifted through, Atlas has remained itself, a frozen body of ice and rock, unchanged in essence. This too is a lesson. For we, with our restless lives, our constant change, might envy such constancy. But Atlas also teaches patience. It does not hurry. It does not strive. It simply moves, carried by gravity, faithful to its trajectory. In that patience, it has survived countless ages, carrying whispers of everything it has passed. We cannot see these whispers with human eyes, but we can feel them, sense them, when we contemplate the depth of its journey. Beyond human eyes also means beyond human time. Atlas has moved for millions, perhaps billions of years. Entire civilizations could rise and fall while it drifts a single light year. Empires vanish, languages fade, mountains erode, yet Atlas continues, indifferent, eternal in comparison. In its story, we glimpse our own smallness, but also our connection. For though our lives are brief, the atoms within us have traveled just as far. They, too, once drifted through stars, through nebulae, through explosions and silences. We are not separate from Atlas. We are part of the same vast story, written in particles and time. There is also comfort in imagining what Atlas has seen. When nights feel long, when silence weighs heavy, we can remind ourselves that silence is not emptiness. Atlas has carried silence for eons, and in that silence it has gathered meaning. We too can carry silence, can sit with it, can find peace within it. To imagine the comet's journey is to imagine resilience without drama, endurance without noise. It drifts, it continues, it remains, and in that remaining, it tells us that existence itself is enough. For those who dream, Atlas becomes a vehicle of imagination. Close your eyes and picture yourself riding upon it, standing on its dark surface as it glides through space. Around you, the stars shift slowly, new constellations forming as centuries pass. Perhaps you see the faint glow of a nebula ahead, or the quiet gleam of a star cluster in the distance. Perhaps you pass close to a dying star, watching its gas drift outward like smoke across the sky. There is no sound, only the hum of your own breath, only the faint shiver of light upon the comet's fractured crust. In such a dream, you too would move beyond human eyes, seeing the cosmos as Atlas has seen it, vast, unending, both beautiful and indifferent. And though we cannot truly know these sights, we are invited to imagine them. The act of imagining is itself a kind of vision, a way of extending our reach beyond the limits of our instruments. Science shows us fragments, but wonder shows us the whole. Together, they allow us to glimpse beyond our sight, into the realm where Atlas has wandered. That is why we tell its story, not only to know what it is, but to sense what it has seen. Now, as Atlas passes through our own neighborhood, it brings all of that unseen history with it. It is not only a comet, it is a vessel of memory, carrying the silence of voids, the dust of stars, the whispers of collisions and creations. Its fractured body is a record, though we cannot read it fully. Beyond human eyes, Atlas has witnessed the universe in its raw truth. And now, For a fleeting moment, it lets us imagine those truths with it. As we continue our journey with Atlas, we will return to the present, to the human scale of time, for though it carries ages within it, its passage near us is brief, a countdown measured in days and weeks. The next step in our story will follow this countdown, as astronomers mark its fleeting presence, knowing it will soon be gone again, vanishing back into the silence from which it came. For most of its life, Atlas has known only timelessness. It drifted across gulfs of darkness without urgency, without clock or calendar, carried only by the steady pull of gravity. But now, for us, its passage becomes a countdown. We measure its approach and retreat in days and weeks, noting each position, each shift, as though it were a rare guest whose visit will be brief. Astronomers mark the calendar, predicting when it will shine brightest, when it will fade, and when it will vanish beyond reach again. This sense of countdown transforms Atlas from a distant traveler into a presence woven into our own moment, into the rhythm of our own lives. To think of this countdown is to feel both excitement and melancholy. Excitement, because the chance to glimpse an interstellar visitor is rare, a gift that few generations are offered. Melancholy, because the visit will not last. Already its path is clear. It will swing near our sun, linger briefly in our sky, and then slip away, never to return. Its orbit is hyperbolic, not bound by the sun's embrace. This is not a cycle that repeats, not a comet like Halley that will visit again. It is a single passage, a once-in-forever moment, a traveler who will never retrace its steps. The countdown, then, is not only to its arrival, but to its farewell. Astronomers track its motion with precision, marking each day as it draws nearer. Charts and tables fill with numbers, distances shrinking, brightness predicted, angles measured. For the scientists, each calculation is an act of reverence, an attempt to capture in data what the heart already feels, the urgency of fleeting presence. Each observation adds to the story, each image another note in the record of Atlas's passage. Yet beneath the mathematics lies something deeply human, the awareness that we are watching a moment that will never repeat, that this countdown is both scientific and emotional. For those of us without telescopes, the countdown is subtler, but still real. We hear the news, read the headlines, sense the hum of anticipation in the astronomy community. We may not see Atlas with our own eyes, but we know it is there, drifting silently, approaching, lingering, and leaving. The countdown becomes part of our own awareness of time, part of the rhythm of days. It is like waiting for a celestial concert, knowing the performance will be brief, knowing the silence will return when it is done. There is something soothing in accepting this brevity. So much of life is fleeting. Seasons change, flowers bloom and fade, days pass too quickly. Atlas reminds us that even in the cosmos, even across billions of years, moments of beauty are brief. Its passage is like a sigh across the heavens, audible only for an instant, then gone. The countdown, instead of being a cause for sorrow, becomes an invitation to cherish the moment, to pay attention, to be present while the wonder is here. And so, astronomers mark the days. They speak of perihelion, the point of closest approach to the Sunday. They speak of apparent magnitude, the measure of brightness. They speak of trajectories and velocities. Yet for listeners like us, the meaning is simpler. The comet is here for a little while, and then it will be gone. Its countdown is our reminder to notice the sky, to look upward, to remember that we live in a universe alive with wanderers. This sense of countdown also mirrors our own lives. We too live with a ticking clock. Each of us has only so many days, so many moments to shine, so many opportunities to share our light. Atlas teaches us to see the beauty in this. Its light is faint, its visit brief, but it is no less meaningful for that. In fact, The brevity makes it more precious. In the same way, our lives, though short against cosmic time, carry a significance that does not require eternity. Each moment is enough when lived with awareness. As you listen now, perhaps you can feel this countdown within yourself, the quiet rhythm of your breath, the gentle beat of your heart, each one marking time, each one reminding you that life is not endless, but that its finitude is what gives it sweetness. Atlas moves across the sky, and you move across your own days. Both are journeys with beginnings and endings. Both are passages measured not in permanence, but in presence. In the observatories, the astronomers wait for the night of greatest visibility. They plan their instruments, prepare their lenses, ready their charts. Each night is a chance to capture another fragment of Atlas's story before it slips away. They know the clock is ticking, that soon it will fade, that their windows of observation are closing. And so they treasure each opportunity, each clear sky, each fleeting glimpse. There is devotion in this devotion not only to science, but to wonder itself. And perhaps that is what Atlas offers us most in its countdown, devotion to the present. Too often, we live in past regrets or future anxieties. The comet reminds us to look at now, to notice what passes before our eyes in this instant. Its presence is temporary, its story fleeting, but its impact lies in the way it sharpens our awareness, the way it pulls us into attention. The countdown is not about the end, but about the richness of every moment leading there. Soon, Atlas will pass beyond sight. Its countdown will reach zero, and it will slip back into the silence of interstellar space. For us, it will be memory, recorded in charts, in images, in whispers of story. But memory itself is a kind of permanence. Even when the comet is gone, its presence will linger in what we learned, in how we felt, in the way we turned our faces upward together for a brief moment in time. The countdown ends, but the meaning continues. And so we follow Atlas, as its days grow short, as its light prepares to fade. We count not in fear, but in reverence, not in sorrow, but in gratitude. For to have seen even faintly, to have known even briefly, is enough. The countdown reminds us not of endings, but of the preciousness of what is here, now. From here, our journey will follow what Atlas leaves behind: the particles, the trails, the dust it scatters like letters written across the night sky. For every comet writes as it departs, leaving traces for us to read. And in those trails, in those signals, perhaps lies the message Atlas was always meant to deliver. Every comet leaves behind a trail. It is not merely a wake of gas and fragments, not only a byproduct of ice turned to vapor. It is writing delicate, shimmering writing across the dark canvas of the sky. When Atlas sheds dust into space, it leaves messages, letters written in particles, stories recorded in drifting streams that may one day cross our own skies as meteors. To read a comet's dust is to read its autobiography, to glimpse the record of its journey, written not in ink, but in grains that shine when struck by light. Atlas, though faint and fragile, is no exception. Its dust becomes its language, a quiet testimony carried long after the comet itself has faded. Dust is small, but smallness does not mean insignificance. Each grain, no larger than a grain of sand, carries with it the chemistry of its origin. Some grains may be nearly pure ice, crystals locked since the dawn of its birth. Others may be carbon-rich, black as soot, absorbing light. Still others may hold complex organics, fragile molecules that whisper of life's potential. Together, these grains are fragments of the comet's core, carried outward by sunlight, scattered across space. Each one is a page torn from the Book of Atlas, drifting free to be read by those who encounter it. When Earth passes through such trails, we see them as meteor showers, streaks of light across the night, brief but radiant. To watch them is to watch dust return to fire, to see fragments of ancient bodies burn in our atmosphere. And though the streaks last only seconds, they are messages written across centuries. Each meteor is proof that the universe leaves traces of its wanderers, that comets do not simply vanish, but remain, their essence scattered across skies. If Atlas breaks apart, if it fractures into dust, its story will not end. Its messages will continue, written in meteors, in particles drifting in orbits, in grains that may fall to Earth or other worlds. Scientists study these grains with reverence. Some are captured by spacecraft, trapped in gels designed to catch them intact. Others are gathered from Antarctic snow, where pristine fragments survive the fall. In laboratories, they are examined under microscopes, analyzed by spectrometers, revealing their secrets. And what do they tell us? They tell us of elements forged in stars, of molecules shaped in the cold of interstellar space, of histories far older than our planet. Each grain of dust is a messenger, carrying not only the story of Atlas, but of the galaxy itself. To read them is to read creation in miniature. There is something deeply human in imagining dust as message. We, too, leave trails of dust behind, not only the literal dust of our bodies, but the traces of our lives. Words we have spoken, acts we have done, memories we have created, all of these are dust, carried into the lives of others. Some of it vanishes quickly, some endures for generations. Atlas reminds us that even the smallest fragments matter, that even dust carries meaning. The comet does not shout its story in brilliance, it whispers it in particles. And we too whisper our lives into the world, never knowing how far the echoes will travel. To lie quietly and think of Atlas's dust is to imagine a letter written not on paper, but on the fabric of space itself. Imagine particles drifting for centuries, orbiting silently, until one night they intersect Earth's path. Suddenly they blaze, a streak of light across the sky, a moment of beauty witnessed by someone perhaps walking home late, or lying in the grass, or listening to a story like this one. That streak becomes a message across time. Atlas was here. Atlas passed this way. Even if the comet itself is gone, its dust ensures it is not forgotten. And perhaps these messages are not only scientific, but spiritual. For in every trail of dust lies the suggestion of continuity. Nothing is truly lost. What breaks apart becomes part of something new. What fades in one place shines in another. The dust of Atlas, scattered across the solar system, may one day become part of planets, moons, even living bodies. You may drink water that once flowed through a comet, breathe oxygen released by particles of dust, carry in your own body atoms that were once part of ancient wanderers. In this way, Atlas is not separate from us, but part of us. Its messages written not only in the sky, but in our very being. The messages in dust are also invitations. They invite us to wonder, to imagine, to look upward. Meteor showers have always inspired awe in human hearts. Ancient peoples told stories of falling stars, of celestial tears, of omens written in fire. Today we call them meteors, but the awe remains. We still stop, still look up, still feel the thrill of witnessing something both fleeting and eternal. Atlas, through its dust, will one day send us such messages. They will not announce themselves as its own, but if we know the story, we will recognize them. Each streak will be Atlas's handwriting, luminous and brief, carried across centuries to touch our eyes. As you listen, imagine lying beneath a dark sky, the air cool, the stars sharp above you. Suddenly, a streak of light crosses the heavens, brief as a breath. You do not know its name, but you feel its presence. That streak may be Atlas's dust, carrying a message from a comet that traveled across light years, fractured in silence, and now speaks to you in fire. In that moment, the distance collapses. The comet's journey and your own life intersect. You are connected, bound by a trail of dust and light. And so, Atlas leaves behind not emptiness, but story, not absence, but writing. Its fractured path becomes a message, its dust a letter carried across space and time. We may not always recognize the handwriting, but the message is there. The universe remembers, even in fragments. From here, we move deeper into speculation. If dust carries messages, what do those messages truly say about Atlas itself? Could they hint that Atlas is not a comet at all, but something stranger, something beyond our categories? In the next part of our journey, we will step into this speculation, asking whether Atlas's identity is what we think, or whether it hides something more, something that challenges our very understanding of what it means to be a traveler from beyond. Every comet we encounter begins as a fact, a trajectory measured, a brightness recorded, a spectrum charted. Yet, every comet also becomes a question. And for Atlas, the question grows larger with each observation. Its faintness, its fractures, its quiet breath, and irregular signals, these do not add up to the neat picture of an ordinary comet. And so, whispers arise. What if Atlas is not what we think it is? What if it is something stranger? Something that belongs not fully to the categories of ice and rock, but to the unknown. To ask this is not to abandon science, but to embrace curiosity. Science thrives on anomalies, on the pieces that do not fit. Oumuamua, the first interstellar visitor we found, carried with it such anomalies: its elongated shape, its lack of a visible tail, its odd acceleration. Some speculated it was a fragment of a shattered planet. Others whispered of artificial probes. Borisov seemed more ordinary, its cometary nature clear. Atlas falls somewhere in between. It has ice, yes, but it hides its activity. It fractures too easily. Its light flickers strangely. And in these irregularities, questions grow. Some astronomers wonder if Atlas might be a different kind of body altogether, not a comet, but a shard of interstellar debris, a fragment of a world that once orbited another Sunday. Imagine a planet torn apart by gravitational tides, its fragments scattered into the void. Atlas could be one such piece, carrying within it minerals never seen in our system, structures formed under alien conditions. If so, then its silence is not reluctance, but difference. It does not behave as we expect, because it was never meant to. It is a fragment of another story, passing briefly through ours. Others speculate more boldly. What if Atlas is not natural at all? What if it is an artifact, a relic of intelligence, disguised by distance as a comet? Oumuamua inspired similar speculation, for its shape and acceleration seemed unnatural. Atlas, too, with its strange quietness, invites wonder. Could it be that advanced civilizations send objects like this as messengers, drifting probes meant to last across ages, carrying within them information or technology? Such ideas are not proven, but they are not forbidden by science either. They dwell in the realm of possibility, reminding us that the unknown is wide and that humility is wiser than certainty. But perhaps the unknown is not external. Perhaps Atlas's strangeness lies not in what it is, but in what it represents. Every anomaly is a mirror to our own ignorance. We want categories, answers, clarity. Atlas resists them. It tells us that the universe does not always fit our expectations, that some things will remain mysterious. In this way, the unknown is not about Atlas, but about us. It is the frontier of our understanding, the edge where curiosity outpaces knowledge, and this, too, is soothing. For if the universe had no unknowns, if everything were already explained, then wonder itself would die. Atlas reminds us that mystery endures, and that this endurance is a gift. To imagine Atlas as unknown is to imagine freedom. It is not bound by definitions. It is not forced into roles. It drifts through space as itself, whatever that self may be, unconcerned with what we name it. In that freedom, there is a lesson for us. We, too, are more than the labels placed upon us. We, too, carry mysteries within, parts of ourselves, unseen even by those closest to us. Atlas whispers that it is enough simply to be, even if the world does not fully understand. The unknown does not diminish us, it expands us. For dreamers, the unknown becomes an invitation. Close your eyes and picture Atlas as something more than a comet. Perhaps it is a seed vessel, carrying dormant chemistry meant to awaken on distant worlds. Perhaps it is a shard of a lost civilization, drifting endlessly in the hope of being found. Perhaps it is something beyond either, something our language cannot yet hold, a phenomenon that slips through categories entirely. To dream of this is not to delude ourselves, but to honor possibility, to keep alive the spirit of wonder that has always guided us. And there is comfort in the unknown as well. In a world where so much is catalogued, measured, explained, mystery gives us rest. We do not need to solve everything. Sometimes it is enough to lie back beneath the stars and let questions drift across the mind like clouds. Atlas embodies this comfort. It does not explain itself. It does not fit neatly. It passes, leaving us not answers but whispers. And whispers, softly spoken, can lull us more deeply than declarations. As astronomers continue to watch, they gather data, but the unknown remains. Each measurement closes some doors but opens others. Each image answers one question, but raises two more. And so, Atlas will likely remain a mystery, even after it has passed beyond reach. We will know something of its orbit, something of its dust, something of its chemistry, but not the whole. The unknown will endure, like a shadow behind the light, reminding us that the universe is vaster than our grasp. And perhaps that is the truest identity of Atlas. Not comet, not shard, not artifact, but question. It is the unknown, embodied in a faint traveler across our skies. It tells us not what it is, but that the universe is still alive with mystery, still capable of humbling us, still generous in giving us wonder. In that sense, Atlas is not only an object, it is an experience, a reminder, a mirror of our longing to know. So we leave Atlas here, wrapped in the unknown, and carry forward with the awareness that its mystery is not a flaw, but a gift. In the next chapter, we will look forward, imagining not only what Atlas is now, but what it will mean for those who come after us. For if it is a traveler between stars, then perhaps it will return again, long after we are gone, to be seen by future watchers who will ask the same questions, who will feel the same wonder, who will hear the same whispers of the unknown. Atlas does not belong to us alone. Its story, its mystery, its passage through our skies is only a single chapter in a journey that stretches far beyond human lifetimes. When we look at it now, when astronomers measure its brightness and trace its fractured path, we are merely one generation of witnesses. Long after we are gone, long after our cities have crumbled and our languages have shifted into silence, Atlas may still be drifting. And if it is, then others will see it, future watchers, beings we cannot yet imagine, who will look upward as we do now and wonder at the faint glow of a stranger crossing their sky. To think of this is to step outside our own narrow frame of time. We measure in years, in decades, perhaps in centuries. But Atlas moves on scales of millennia, its orbit carrying it into the deep dark beyond our solar system, back into the gulfs between stars. It may drift there for ages before wandering near another system, before brushing past another world, and when it does, perhaps new eyes will look up. Perhaps civilizations unknown to us will point their instruments toward the glow, asking the same questions we ask. Where did it come from? What is it made of, and what does its presence mean? It is comforting to imagine this continuity. Atlas becomes a thread that links generations, not of people only, but of species, of worlds. We are not its first witnesses, nor its last. In its long drifting, it becomes a kind of time traveler, carrying memory across epochs, ensuring that wonder never dies. Perhaps the beings who see it in the far future will not be human at all. Perhaps they will be descendants of us, evolved and changed beyond recognition. Or perhaps they will be entirely other, life that blossomed from comets like Atlas itself, seeded long ago in places we cannot reach. Whoever they are, they will share this moment with us, separated by ages, but connected by the same gaze. To imagine future watchers is also to reflect on what they might know. By then, they may have mastered interstellar travel, may send ships out to meet comets like Atlas face to face. They may touch its surface, drill into its core, unravel every chemical secret it holds. What is mystery to us may be knowledge to them. And yet, even so, perhaps they too will feel the same awe, the same humility. For knowledge does not erase wonder. If anything, it deepens it. To hold Atlas in your hands, to taste its ices, to map its fractures, is still to feel its ancient journey pressing against you, still to know you are touching something that has drifted across eternity. Future watchers may also weave new myths. Just as our ancestors spoke of comets as omens and spears of the gods, future beings may tell their own stories. They may speak of Atlas as a wanderer spirit, as a guardian of memory, as a messenger of distant stars. They may project onto it their own fears and hopes, just as we do. And in this way, Atlas becomes a mirror for all ages, reflecting not only human questions, but universal ones. Where did we come from? Are we alone? What lies beyond our reach? These questions are timeless, and Atlas carries them forward, ensuring they are asked again and again. There is something soothing in imagining this. While our lives are brief, our questions endure. We may not last forever, but curiosity does, wonder does. Atlas, drifting through darkness, becomes the vessel that carries our questions into the future. Even if no one remembers our names, even if our monuments turn to dust, the questions we asked while looking at Atlas may echo in the minds of those who watch it long after us. We become part of a continuum of wonder, a lineage of gazes stretched across time. And perhaps, in this imagining, we find comfort in our own smallness. For it tells us that we are not the final word, not the end of curiosity. Others will come after us, just as others came before. Our role is not to finish the story, but to hold it for a moment, to add our voice to the chorus, to pass it along. Atlas teaches us that nothing belongs to one age alone. Every comet, every star, every question belongs to the river of time, flowing endlessly, carrying all who watch into the same current. As you listen, close your eyes and picture this. Far in the future, perhaps thousands of years from now, a different world spins beneath Atlas's path. Its skies are unfamiliar, its lands shaped by hands not our own. And yet, on that world, someone looks upward, sees the faint glow, and wonders. They may not know of us, may never hear of Earth. Yet in that moment, they share the same feeling, the awe of seeing a traveler from beyond. Across time and distance, we are connected, joined by the same comet, the same whisper, the same sense of mystery. Future watchers may also carry with them the dust of Atlas, gathered in laboratories, preserved in libraries of knowledge. They may know more of its chemistry than we do now, may have pieces of it stored as relics. But perhaps they will also understand what we do, that the greatest gift of Atlas is not its data, but its presence. It is not only what it teaches us about molecules and orbits, but what it reminds us about ourselves, that we are part of something vast, that we are travelers too, that wonder is the thread that links all beings across time. And so, Atlas does not vanish when it leaves our sight. It continues, carrying with it the memory of our gaze, and one day it will awaken wonder again. This continuity is a form of immortality. Through Atlas, our questions endure, carried to future watchers who will add their own, who will send them forward still further. The comet becomes a chain linking civilizations, a bridge across epochs, a mirror that reflects all who dare to look. From here, our journey with Atlas will turn toward its farewell, for even as it carries memory forward, it must leave us soon. The countdown leads to departure, and as it drifts away, we are left to reflect on the meaning of its passing. The next chapter will be a gentle farewell, a meditation on impermanence, as Atlas fades into the distance and leaves us with the quiet wonder of things too brief to last, yet too beautiful to forget. Every journey carries its farewell. For Atlas, that farewell has already begun. Even as we continue to watch it, its light is faint, its fractured body weaker than before, its path bending outward from the warmth of our Sunday. Soon it will slip away, retreating into the silence of interstellar space, a guest leaving quietly after a brief visit. There will be no great curtain call, no blazing finale, only a gentle fading, a soft retreat that feels more like a sigh than an exit. And yet, in that gentleness lies beauty. For Atlas reminds us that departures need not be loud to be meaningful. Astronomers mark its fading in numbers. Each night, they measure its brightness and note the decline. Each observation reveals a little less light, a little more distance. It becomes harder to see, harder to capture in images. In time, only the largest telescopes will catch its trace, and then, eventually, none will. But this slow vanishing is not failure. It is the natural rhythm of comets. They arrive suddenly, stir wonder for a time, and then pass, leaving behind trails of dust, whispers of light, and memories that linger long after their glow is gone. For us, the farewell is not only scientific but emotional. We feel the sadness of impermanence, the ache of seeing something so mysterious fade beyond reach. But we also feel gratitude that we were alive in this moment, that we had the chance to know of Atlas at all. Of all the centuries it has drifted, all the worlds it has passed, it brushed past us now, in our brief lifetimes. That coincidence is a gift. Its farewell reminds us to treasure what is fleeting, to hold moments of beauty close even as they slip through our fingers. There is also gentleness in the way Atlas departs. Some comets blaze brightly before they disintegrate, their tails stretching dramatically, their demise spectacular. Atlas, true to its quiet nature, chooses another path. It does not roar, it whispers. It fades softly, as though it does not wish to disturb the sky. This gentle farewell mirrors the soft endings in our own lives. The closing of a day, the fading of a song, the last light of evening. Not all endings are violent. Some are tender, quiet, and filled with peace. Atlas teaches us to honor those endings as well. As it drifts away, Atlas leaves behind more than dust. It leaves perspective. It reminds us of scale, of how small our lives are compared to its journey, and yet how connected we are to it in this moment. It teaches patience, humility, and wonder. Even in its farewell, it offers meaning, a final lesson whispered in fading light. That lesson is simple. Beauty is not diminished by brevity. The fact that Atlas appears only once, never to return, makes its presence more precious. The fleetingness is the gift. Imagine watching the night sky, knowing Atlas is there but faint, a small spark against the stars. You strain your eyes. Perhaps you cannot see it at all, yet you know it is drifting. That awareness alone changes you. For even unseen it exists. Even fading, it matters. And when it is gone, when it has passed beyond our reach, it will not be erased. It will continue its journey, carrying its fractured body into the darkness, perhaps to be seen again by watchers in another time, another place. Its farewell to us is only the continuation of its presence elsewhere. This gentle farewell is also a mirror of our own mortality. Like Atlas, we too must one day fade, our light growing dim, our journey carrying us beyond the reach of those we love. But Atlas shows us that such farewells need not be harsh. They can be soft, gentle, filled with meaning. We too can leave trails of dust, memories, whispers of ourselves that linger in the lives of others. The comet reminds us that impermanence is not emptiness, but transformation, that departure is not erasure, but continuation in another form. In this way, Atlas comforts even as it departs. Its fading glow is a lullaby, a reminder that endings can be peaceful. To lie beneath the stars and think of Atlas is to feel the rhythm of coming and going, of arrivals and farewells, of cycles that stretch beyond our grasp. The comet does not fear its fading. It accepts it, continues, drifts onward, and so can we. As the days pass, astronomers will note its absence. Headlines will move on. The world will forget. But those who pause to wonder, those who looked upward, will carry Atlas within them. Its farewell will live in their thoughts, their stories, their dreams. And in those dreams, Atlas will continue, not as a faint dot on a telescope's chart, but as a presence that once passed, once whispered, once taught us to look at the sky with gentler eyes. And so, we come to the close of its chapter with us. Atlas will leave, as all comets do, and we will remain, holding only memory. Yet that memory is enough. It is enough to know we were part of its path, that we shared a moment with a traveler from beyond. Its gentle farewell becomes our gentle gratitude, a quiet acknowledgement that the universe gives us gifts, not to keep, but to witness. From here, our journey with Atlas turns inward, for if it mirrors us, if it whispers of life's seeds, if it scatters dust and signals, then perhaps its greatest meaning is not in the sky at all, but within us. As it departs, we are left not only with memory, but with reflection, with the questions it awakened about who we are, where we come from, and what it means to live briefly, yet meaningfully, beneath the stars. In the next and final chapter of our story, we will listen to those reflections, to the awakening within ourselves that Atlas inspires. Atlas is fading from our skies, its light retreating into the distance, its fractured body drifting back into the silence between stars. Yet even as it departs, its meaning does not vanish. If anything, the echo grows louder within us. For Atlas was never only a comet. It was also a mirror, a messenger, a question. Its hidden identity, though still mysterious, awakens something deeper inside us, a recognition of our own place in the universe, of the fleeting beauty of existence, and of the quiet truths that lie within. This awakening is subtle, not a thunderclap, but a whisper, arriving in the same way Atlas revealed itself gently, faintly, yet profoundly. When we think of Atlas, we think of journeys measured in millennia. We think of silence carried across light years, of ice that has slept since before Earth was born. But what stirs within us is not only curiosity about chemistry or orbits, it is something more personal. We recognize in Atlas our own longing to wander, to endure, to carry meaning across the briefness of our days. We are not comets, yet we too are travelers through time, through experience, through the fragile arc of life. Atlas awakens this awareness, that our small journeys echo the vast journeys of the cosmos. The awakening also comes in our relationship with impermanence. Atlas reminds us that nothing lasts forever, even comets, which seem eternal in their drifting, fracture, and fade. Their beauty is fleeting, their visits brief. So too are our own lives. We resist this truth. We fear it, but Atlas teaches us to see it differently. Its departure is not tragic but natural, not violent but gentle. It awakens within us the possibility that endings too can be graceful, that impermanence does not diminish beauty, but defines it. To awaken to this truth is to live more fully in the present, to hold each moment tenderly, knowing it will not return. In Atlas's hidden core, in its frozen molecules, we also see another kind of awakening, the possibility that life is not bound to one world. Comets may carry seeds of life, scattered across the galaxy. If so, then we, ourselves, may be children of such wanderers. To contemplate this is to awaken to a larger sense of belonging. We are not isolated accidents on a small planet, but part of a vast, fertile cosmos, where chemistry and possibility are carried like pollen by icy travelers. Atlas reminds us that our origins may be older, wider, more connected than we imagine. The awakening here is humility and awe. That life is not small, but cosmic. That we are threads in a tapestry woven from the dust of stars and comets. Yet the deepest awakening is personal. As Atlas drifts away, we realize that its hidden identity was not only its own, it was also ours. For what we saw in its silence, fragility, resilience, mystery, were qualities we carry too. We are fragile, yet we endure. We are silent in some parts of ourselves, yet we carry depths unseen. We fracture, yet we continue. We are questions more than answers, mysteries even to ourselves. Atlas awakens us to this mirror, reminding us that to be human is to be as mysterious as any comet, as fleeting yet as meaningful as any light that crosses the sky. Perhaps this is why its story lingers in us. Not because we solved its mystery, we did not, but because it awakened us to the beauty of mystery itself. In a world that demands answers, Atlas shows us the value of questions. In a culture that celebrates noise, Atlas honors silence. In lives that often rush forward, Atlas drifts slowly, patiently, reminding us that existence does not need to be hurried to be meaningful. To awaken within us is to soften, to slow down, to notice the quiet wonders already present. So, as Atlas leaves, it does not leave emptiness, it leaves reflection. It leaves the quiet awakening of those who watched, those who listened, those who allowed themselves to be touched by its passing. We may never see it again, but that does not matter. Its gift was never permanence. Its gift was presence. And presence, once awakened within us, remains. Close your eyes now and imagine that gift. Imagine Atlas drifting far away, its glow fading into darkness. Imagine the silence of space closing around it, vast and eternal. Yet within you, something stirs. You feel gentler, more patient, more connected. You recognize your own journey as part of the cosmos, your own fragility as part of the pattern, your own silence as a form of meaning. This is the awakening Atlas leaves behind, not in the sky, but in you. And so, our story with Atlas draws to a close. We have followed it from its first whispers at the edge, through its frozen breath, its fractured path, its signals of light, its myths and mysteries, to this gentle farewell. And now, as it awakens something within us, we recognize that the true meaning of Atlas is not only in what it is, but in what it makes us feel. It awakens within us wonder, humility, tenderness, and peace. From here, our journey will not continue outward, but inward. We will drift now into rest, carrying Atlas's gift into our dreams, letting its whispers guide us into sleep. For in the end, that is the greatest awakening, not noise, not answers, but the rest that comes when we recognize ourselves in the cosmos, and the cosmos in ourselves. And now, as our journey with Atlas reaches its end, let us rest in the silence it leaves behind. The comet has drifted across our story like a whisper, reminding us of the beauty of mystery, the dignity of silence, the resilience of fragility. We have followed it from the edges of the sky to the depths of its hidden core, through myths and science, through seeds of life and fragments of dust. And as it fades into the distance, it leaves us with a gift, not answers, but peace. Tonight, as you lie beneath your own sky, remember that you, too, are part of this cosmic story. The atoms in your body were forged in stars. The water you drink may once have been carried by comets. The breath you take is part of the same cycle that shapes galaxies. You are not separate from Atlas. You are not separate from the universe. You are woven into it, inseparable, eternal, in essence even as your days are brief. So breathe slowly now. Feel the rhythm of your heart, as steady as the drifting of a comet across the dark. Let your thoughts settle, like dust falling gently in silence. There is nothing more to do, nothing more to seek. The questions can wait, the mysteries can rest. For now, it is enough simply to be, to let the quiet carry you. Atlas continues its journey, and you continue yours. Both are part of the same vast pattern, both fleeting, both meaningful. Let this awareness cradle you like a lullaby, soft and tender, until sleep arrives. And when you wake, may you carry with you the gentleness of Atlas's farewell and the awakening it left within your heart. Sweet dreams.